Okay, I introduce myself shortly. My name is Dr. Choi. Yeah, it's my background is alternative medicine and the psychology and the life coaching. So this class, the Christian the history, the name, the subject is advanced history of Christian. So maybe your division the different, maybe Buddha or Catholic, the Christian, but we have this class subject. So we understand the root of the Christian, the church, and we have three part, and the different the portion, and then they have the system. So maybe you can understand the root of the Christian, the church history. Okay, so the name is Advanced History of Christian. This subject 10 weeks. So we already 5 weeks the finish. So I give the more repeat. Lecture 1, we study the biblical foundation of Christian education. How are you? Okay. So first week we study this one, contains the old German and studying the point of Christian pedagogy, the SEMA. So we have the Bible study, yeah, and the contents, wisdom, literature, the previous poems, the educational tasks, shaping moral, and then spiritual, the character. The Jesus said, master teacher, the parables, the questions, life on life and mentorship, and unapostolic teaching in the early church, letters, the characteristics, and the oral, the tradition. The key point, the Christian education is the root, the God confidence, and then discipleship. And the family and the community are the first classroom. The scripture is the foundation of our both contents and matters. So we studied the 1 week, this one, contents. I did the summary, okay? And okay. The relation of early church to careers and the intention of Jesus. The primary source of our knowledge of Jesus, of our narrative, the power, the canonical, the gospel in the New Testament. There are also a number of our non-canonical the source, and notably is the political, the gospel, which contain the story about Jesus and the saying, the attitude is him. The gospel of Thomas, preserved in the Coptic, the Genesis library is found about 1945 in Egypt. The contains several church such sayings that beside some implement the version of our canonical the saying here, and then also the Christian under Pontius Pilate, who was perfect over Judaism, the 2636 CE was probably about the years 2930s, but again certainly it's impossible. The Jesus encounter is John the Baptist, the authority in the Jonathan's the teacher who preached difference and baptism in view of God's coming kingdoms. The Mark deceived in the moment for his career. And also here, the summarizer. It is universal Christian believes that 3 days after his death, he was raised from the dead by divine power. So I want to question, you know God, heaven? What kind of your religion? Christian, Buddha, Catholic? What kind do you have of the God? Okay. The Jesus preached in minimum the presence of God's kingdom is some test in the future, the consummation. In order as earliest presence, the word and act of Jesus believed to be the ingradation of a process that was the culminate in the final triumphs God. His disciple that recognized him as the Messiah and the unturned one, the thought there is no echo to him using the word, respected indirectly in the difference to himself. He wanted immediately self-design shown in the Son of Man, the sometimes allusion is his suffering, the sometimes to his future known as judges. This title is deeper, from the version of a book of Daniel. The wears on like a son of man, the contrast in the breast, the figures, the divisions, the humility in the people of God, of something to be indicated by the divine judges. In the development gospel tradition, the theme of the transcendent judges seems to be most prominent. So we have the 1 week, we learned this one. The second week, lecture 2, the early church patriotic education. So we have the last one, so with the basic of the education in the Christian. The second week, we learned the lecture 2. The early church, the patriotic education contains the cathedral, the school, Alexandria, analytical, untouched leaders, the historical, the determinate the process, inspiration before the baptism, the shift from the frustration to the concentration church, the more inspirational structure of learning. The contents, we have the key point. The early church, the balanced faith, the formation, and the intellectual the defense. The Catholics were central for identity and discipleship. The patriotic things laid in the groundwork for the later technology and then pedagogy. And Catholic contribution, the culture. So we mentioned about the plastic age. The fathers of our church, those saintly writers of early centuries, whom the church recognized and heard the special defenders or auditory, and the plastic is studied in the during which they live. And we have here, Ubis of the Equestria, the father of our church history. We interested this guy. He had a check carriers, the Baptists and the others. He interested the length of our clothing, and from his earliest day in the priesthood, had an ardent desire for knowledge. His greatest ambition, or in which the library in the Equestria is the new manuscripts, they just provided him with the source of it. He later used the writers. His several histories. He was a close friend of the pamphlets in which whom he was impression before the pamphlets, the martyrdom, the white is prison, the two compass, the promise approach of origin. And one more paper here. The together is mass of our textual data. It contains numerous of documents drawn from the state, varieties extracted from the other authors. Now, moreover, Ubis' sincerity can hardly be questioned, even though his misplaced simplicity sometimes led him to make the certain omission. The greatest number of extracts also make the work appear more of a collection than in history. And here, the whole letter of days would pay me my empire if I should try to collect and combine it into account made for example for our Savior, the divine power, the evidence from his path is still visible. The sins known on whoever lives either among Greeks and amongst the barbarians ever is habit to such power in the divine abilities had our on the Savior. That we study is void, right? Okay. Here, the what God over hero ever has seen over in writings is the most variety layer over his teaching, the area from the sun's light to its setting. The all about his leadings, the quickest extends with the sun, so that is every relation, everyone the ears discharge on, and the same the degrees over service on God. So this one you can figure out. So you have the history. What God over hero over the trust aside of God and then heroes, the Greek and then barbarians and the ordinate that not on the God among those be believed to accept, and having so ordinate the privilege and had others the hand attracted by all the thoughts he himself was brought on, ever destroyed in the entire army of his eminence. The conquerings of the God and the host of age, to be himself the proclaimed by the people, thought out this whole of human, the habitation on the child of God. So they mention about we had the God in the hero, but all the people they think about is a human habitation on the child of God. That you guys children of the God. So they mention about that. The who has originated is that those who inhabit the great years, the whenever soul contain or inside Iceland, they should be assembled in the same place or very same the purpose every week on the day, the call after law and have a holiday, and has the accountable in times not to be individuals their body, but to rekindle their soul by divine study. Okay. The what gods of heroes, the being so attract as was our Savior, led in victorious trophies over his enemies. Therefore, they from the beginning to in the levels series from the assailants, his teaching and his people, but he who is invisible and invisible is promote his retainers, as well as their very house of worship to be furnace of glory. Okay, the more the others interest you. If there is on the virus of whose name the temple doctrines and whose life the symbolizing the Holy Church, it is Saint Anarchist. He died in 37 years after 45 years in the episcopate. His the extensive writings were mainly composed over during the frequent exercise he suffered because of his defense of faith. Like a third Paul, he was hunted by his enemies was apostle or accusation by the term of his father. And here, here. What is worked in the unnovel thought in creation of a world, summarizing the alternatives, who the approach the faith, he showed in his day the widespread confusions, especially among the intelligence about the most basic truths of revelation. His recommendation in the 4th century is more than ever the valid today. A deep study over scripture and then education that to be highly estimated, but it's unpolite like the poor soul and the Christian features in the dictionary if the soul having the practice those things would obtain and process what is desired to learn, the word of God, as far as this is possible for human nature. So we have they mention of the human lectures, so they can figure out. We have so many God. So your heart and your family or your relation, they have any kind of the regulation. So you can find out this one. And so we second week we studied this one, and lecture 3 is the believers monastic in the Catholic school. So 3 week we studied this one. The contents, the monastic education, the preservation of our scriptures, the copying, manuscript, and then dialogue with the diviner. The Benedictine mothers or labors of prayer in the world, the shopping, the holistic education, liberal art, the television, the governors, the erotics, the logics, the carabin, autonomics, the geometry, the music, astronomy. The light of our Catholic school preparer, salary, and then admissioner. The key point, education, push of Christian and critical wisdom, thus the monastery. The second, the spiritual formation was inseparable from the intellectual the training. The third Catholic schools prepared the way for medieval university. So with the content, this one the key point. So they have they explain the contents. The monastery, the school where along with the Catholic school, the most of the important inspiration of higher learning in the Latin West from the earliest Middle Age until the 12th century. Since Catholic educational program, the standard curriculum incorporates English studies, the television and the Caribbean. In some places, the monastery school evolved to medieval university is eventually largely suspect for instruction and center of higher learnings. The history. Since the Seraphitic rule over Pachymers and the 16th centuries, the rule over master and the rule over the Benedictine monk and the nuns were required to actively engage in the readings. Yeah, today more the summarizing the last the contents we study. These readings took the characteristics of a school that differ in the both religious and scholarly subjects. The beginning in the 5th centuries, the variety about the technical concept, the responsibility over education, the who enters the monastery and the young age. The earliest the monastery school had more the spiritual and the ascetic focus than the spiritual or technical one, but it has been suggested that there were more qualified the many monks trainer and the monastery school and Latino to be selected bishop. So through the week we studied this one, and here the center of learnings were also found in the 7th century in Spain, but its major monasteries and spiritual center. The students and the monastery of Saint Cosmas and the Domain and the Agnes Leo Toledo learned such the scientific subject in the medicine and the rudiment of astronomy. In the hard days of the monastery school in the 9th century and the 10th centuries, the teaching of important schools such as Equine. The Habits lecture, the adherence over lecture and the Lothar Babulus and the legend of prestige over their abbeys that attract popular from after attend their course. So they have the 5 teachers, they want to try the system and then also they make up the system. Here. Okay. The contribution of science in the Middle Age. The monastery played a large role in the preservation and then concentration of science throughout in the Middle Age. They studied in the Middle Age, they mentioned about the medicine. The largest part of their concentration was keeping the textual tradition of philosophers like Aristotle and Plato live in the transition from the height of classical learning in the Middle Age. In between prayers, meals, sleeping, the monks engage in the various labor activity in the accordance of the benediction rule. So they studying the sleeping, the monk, the meal, prayer. They combine also they want the benefit rule. They follow rule. The activity range from the gardening to copying the test. Those later the monks became the learned in the classical Greek text and the later begin to contribute their own the knowledge to more practical and daily texture. So they this Middle Age they don't have the cattle or you have no cell phone, no texture. So they only usually order spread. So they don't have no book and then no AI, no anything, the cell phone, any kind. So no terrorism. So only they move to and order. The much of our great liberties and then scriptura that grow in the monasteries were due to the immigration of the monks, teacher, young boy, and who came to them having been committed to the monastic life by their parents. Here, the medical practice highly important in the medieval monastery. The carving for the sick was the important operation. There is the evidence over there from the monastery, the vivarium, the monastery of Casparis, who was a monk and interested in little medical work, Greek, writers such as Hippocrates, Gallians, and then Dioscorides. Because people, you know the Hippocrates, right? That's what they mention about the very important the medical medicine. So sometimes when you're sick, you have to go hospital, you need a doctor, right? So they started in the more focus over medical ministry, and then also they want to care for the poor people. There is also evidence for the use of those such the test on the medication is like that most monasteries have a large amount of expertise in the medical practice. Despite the monastery schools obvious focus on the technical intuition, they did hold a place for classical and secular medical tests. It is thought medical institution monastery that is classical medical tests survived thus in early part of our Middle Age. The monasteries were still today's isolated centers. This means they had to be able to provide treatment for themselves, including treating the monks who would become ill. Since maintaining the hospital wing was traditionally, it is no surprise that monks invest a lot of time on the medical treatment. At the time, this was almost exclusively taught herbal medicine. Much of our knowledge of exotic plants and can be found is herbal due to training of plants themselves and knowledge between the monastery. So they started in the Middle Age and then they mentioned the medicine, but it's not Western medicine. They don't have the much knowledge or medical equipment they don't have. So they apply to the wild flower, the beach flower, and then traditional medicine, and then the herb, electric herb, and then the oil, the honey, the aloe. They're using the natural part in the medicine. One of those science that would have been important life in the monastery is astronomy. While they did not put forth new information or dimensions in the pride, they did continuous its use. If they are going to add to astronomy, then why was its importance? As previously stated, monastery had to be self-sufficient. That means in order to complete their religious operation, they had to be able to tell the time. This ranges from the day to day, the timekeeping for prayer, early observation. Astronomy was particularly important in the earliest religious calendars and then observation of such feasts as Christmas and Easter. So most of Christian people and the church, they are very important things, the Christmas and then Easter. You guys, you like the Christmas, right? Merry Christmas, right? And then Easter too, right? The December, you're waiting for the Christmas. And then April, we had the Easter. So, do you know Easter Day, right? Right? You know the Easter. Yeah. What to do Easter Day? You go to church or you go home, the shopping, or you friend the dinner? How about the Christmas Day? Yeah, Christmas too. You go to church? Oh, church, okay. Yeah, it's the two events, ceremony is very important. The church, the Christian Eve and the Easter. Yeah, the Christmas is the Jesus' birthday, right? And the Easter, he's done from is Elijah again, right? Yeah, so very important here. In the grand scheme of the intellectual advancement, monasteries and the monastery school make up a small portion of our larger whole. They were, however, important in their own right in their contribution to preservation of our textual, philosophical, and then scientific tradition. The monastery provided the stable environment of our learning in the medieval Europe. While much of the learning was contains the combined of our monastery world, the knowledge did extend beyond the limited, isolated centers. Those travel and the pilgrims who would stay in the monastery. So we study the 3 weeks. So we middle age over, they studying their medication and then they want to try to follow the door of the lecture party and then barbecue the food and the plant. So a lot of the plant and also the lecture medicine inside here, the Bible. So the Hippocrates and the John, they people they want to try to apply to public people. So lecture 4 we studied this one. The Reformation and the education, the linear. So we study into the Luther, Calvin, so Augustine, and we have some the Martins. So we have the interest of poor people. The contents, Luther's school for all the boy and the girl, the small and the large, catechism. The Melanchthons, the teacher of Germany, introducing the humanism in the Protestant theology. The Calvin, general academics, the trained pastor and the civic leaders. Jesuit the response lead to the study in the rigorous system of classical and then theoretical study. The key points, the Reformation, democracy and education, the universal literacy, the Catholicism became the central teaching tool, the Puritans and the Catholic models repaired Europe's educational landscape. The Reformation as a lineage, retrieving on the holy, the Catholic and then opposed the church. Here, okay, so we have Matthew Barris, and then we have a better word. This one they are mentioned about here. The reformers means you have the table or chair, but there is some problem, so it don't work. You can sit. So we fix something. So they starting this age over the middle age. They want to try the reform. They want to fix the system. So the reformists mean we have two kinds of reforms. We have the house. So you want to build up the new one, the zero ground, to hold the escape and then you build up. Or the other thing is only a small interior, only inside. So outside the house we live, and the inside of the little pigs. The semi-interiors, the whole interior, the reform. So they try to mention the reform. In Barrett's word, the reformers did not think the Reformation was a primarily revelation for new or modern ideas, but the retrieval and the renewal on the Holy Catholic and then Apostolic Church. This means you have three church. So they want a house. They want to keep the traditional, and then only the little. We have a software or hardware. So hardware is we have the house, and software inside the room, right? So you want a bathroom, you want a room, the study room or dining room, you change. So they want to keep the traditional, the big house, and also they have the Catholic or opposite church and Holy Church. So they have the little small size of the church, but we have the whole church inside here. So they want to change the system. It's a reform, okay? It's garbage or junk. Maybe you can find, you can piece with the garbage, right? But little part where some you have a change and you can reform, you can use it. This is reform, okay? So they mention about this one. The best article is a historical in the lectures that what flower is not authentic mind the church palace or medieval theologian determine if the reformer were right. The which is itself different projects. There is what flowers the fresh intellectual and then theoretical history of our Reformation that listen to this is for the reformer themselves interpret their reform in the renewal of our Catholic. So they studying, you have a church, big church, you have the Apostolic Church and the Holy Church, the Catholic Church. So they little divided, and then they have a make a root of the Christian. The Reformation is a renewal process in the power part. The Reformation, the renewal process is a four part. The first one section deals with medieval Latin tradition. The Latin tradition one. The beginning it is monasterism and magisterium and settling in the poor and extend the decision over sacralism. In Barrett's account, Thomas Aquinas represents the principle of medieval scholastic theology in the ideas of synthesis of Augustine, the parallelism, the medieval Aristotelianism. Here, the second, The second section tells the story about Luther and the German Reformation. So we have the Luther and the Calvin, the Luther and the German Reformation. The battles, the histories, the Luther said that the medieval man influenced his early years by the Weber, Modena, or the nominalists, but eventually the finding his path of reform thought, the eye of Augustine. We have the Augustine too. So three, the Luther and the Augustine, also the German Reformation, so they one part. This Augustine visions, the Luther and the Wartburgers, the forgot for their idea of repeat the apostolic church against the traditionalists, the Catholics, humanists, and essentially the liberal reform and approach. In third section, take the leaders from the Swiss cantons, the British Israel, where the British test in there is Georgia, and then governors the France, England, and then Scotland. So they have some of the Augustine, the Luther, they spread more move toward Jewish governor, the France, England, and the Scotland, the Europe areas. So they transfer, and also they spread. Here, the Waters compares the approach of beginner reformers like Martin Bucer and John Calvin, that our so-called radical reformation, Anabaptists, the spiritualists, and then Methodist Christian. So they have the three parts they mention about it. They move to the Europe area, and also so many the people they mention about it, and then the reformer. How are you? It's a new people today, huh? Welcome first. Nice to meet you. Okay. Here, the fourth section. Now so we repeat. The 6th week. So 5 weeks. The subject I repeat. So your first time come here, I wanna repeat more subject and the summary. Okay. The section deals butterflies either Catholic reformation, including the formation of our Jewish, the beginnings of our Lolia, and then confusion of our cultural trend. The Bartley's trend is a subtle triples over nominalism and the rejection of our Augustine the strategy. Thus, in his section, who is closer to Thomas Aquinas, the trend of our Reformation, it's concluded that reformers climbed to Catholics were the substrain against the declaration of our trend. So 863, 864, they the Bartley's trend. So every the centuries you have the trend. So the trend of Reformation. So we mention about. So we trends we follow some the fancy, right? Now K-pop or some the female have the mention about the more cosmetic some the issue. We follow trend or Reformation different. Yeah. So they try to do more. The close to Thomas Augustine, they follow the trend or Reformation. The seeking to dispel bread judges the notion that Reformation have brought separation. The Bible draws especially on the work David stimulated in his stories, the Richard murders, who brought focus to concentrating the Reformation as the contribution of world medieval secularism. So the Reformation, the renewal combined the systematic and the Muller world Reformation, secularism in the 20th centuries. Scholar of medieval Pilgrimage Eastern Garson imposed the name in the light of Weber, Modena in the Declaration. Here, so okay. His stature provided helpful summary over certain points of medieval theology, while his attention to political history appreciation, the sheer take of authors involved in the program of church reforms. The bottom declines the latest network church leaders across Europe, the demonstrating that the Reformation was best at the comparison intellectual movement. As our intellectual history, the does his unaccompanied leaders the service by the brings them into combination the sum of the key, historic, and then theological in the ingoings, debit over, legacy over, reformation. So this one. Okay, here. Yeah, this is the study dust of a book, and then it's a great so far as it's go. But it's other place, the very impact arguing the reformers were more lying in their unbroken greater tradition than even they could have known. So they wanted to keep the house, and only they wanted to little change, semi the design or the interior change inside the room, the kitchen area or your booth, restroom. So they want the traditional, and then also they want to apply the modern technical and then theology and then trend. So very simple. Okay, so they want to try the traditional, the root over the Christian church, but they have a little change Catholic, Apostolic Catholic and the church, the whole church, and a little divide. Given balanced interest-related prayer that is list the bubbles over reformers and their argument for their own Catholic, Almighty expected the study to be framed around, figure out like a balance over clearly. It is cutting on over the Catholic, the church room, treasury cream, and number of the voice cry seated by the reformer. So they want to argue. They want to combine, but it's not the smooth drive. So they want to aside to they only the one part. So they argue and then they don't have no solution. So they want to try to keep going the own way. So the problem they want to traditional to keep the problem. They want to try to apply the modern style. So they that solution. Yeah. But instead, very often the choice artists we have the historical subjects. For instance, he considers that both Luther and Calvin probably never needed Thomas Augustine first hand. So Thomas, the Calvin, Luther, the Calvin. So Luther, Calvin, they have the root different, but you have they want to try the Augustine, Thomas. So they want to try the settle the problem. They want to try to the 1A. So one side, they argument to a long time, but they want to combine the harmony. They want to try the Augustine, the Thomas, and then the first hand. So they have the summarize, and then also they make the combine universal, and then they want to try to give some area. So two parts, but they have the same around here, the same space. So they have the goal, one goal. Nevertheless, it seems important the brothers he show how the pairs may have unintentionally mirrored Augustine's theology in their respective movement. So they want to try the Calvin, then Luther's, they want to wander away, but they have the Thomas Edison, they have the center. So they want to keep too much there, they have the some together. Yeah, so they control the speed or some the scale. So they have Augustine they have a control main stadium. So they have the little shaking, but they are on the way. He even concludes that edified Calvin was in debate Augustine, and his debate was deep. He was in debate with Thomas and any others scholars committee, Augustine, exegy, and then theology. Here. So one more people here, the interest. At 72 years, his son, even those most familiar in the English doctors like Martin Bussell and the could gratefully the Augustine, the Aristotelian metaphysics in the flavor on that is better sweeten the toast of a given biblical test. The other letters gods, the believers, story, and then philology becomes the probability and the point. Division was not merely the even primarily the matter of intelligence for medical question. And here, okay, as well as Philippines in the 13th centuries, many imposed by long-standing the tradition and then considered the decrease and then supported by Augustine the visually able other theologian long before the scholastic decay here. In the matter of liturgies, the liturgy in the early church against the believer on the point of Paris now earlier in the same the chapters 4-6, but then his figure of the historical the Philorasian letters the suggestion by he noted that such a practice were later believers, the limiters here. The finalist question lingers about the best use of a Catholic at the dividing line. What is the Catholic to which order magisterial reformer the summit? It is share of set of the doctrinal the aspiration. It is the audience of the ecumenical creed, the collective ordination of Augustine, or metaphorical the continuity in the secularism, and process mission that was the authority of the lover. It's not the lover, this is the Bible real story. So here, okay, here. As a historical survey of deformation applied to Catholic, the fathers might have laid out the philosopher the human use of our church. Fathers argued for his position of believers. Augustine, the renewals martyrical tradition of anchorage found among his faith burdens were classified scholastic and self-purposes and adherence to twice the ethical over creed and then council decided and the Christian. Here. Okay. Although the questions fitted literature and the first carols were the harder carvings and the Christian tradition in the similar vein, leaders made countries various. The summation of Augustine thought life is a preparation in the medieval context by leadings, illustrate the Luther and the Reformation of our latest Middle Age. So we studied the Povic. Lecture 5. Last week we studied this one. Early modern development, the Pietism, and then Relativism. Contents. Pietism, Spanish peer disorder, French school, emphasis on the personal devotion. The Frisian, the conventional education, the Harvard literature over spiritual leadings. Encouraging enlightenment, listen, and the encouraging challenge revelation, and shifting the pedagogical practice. The evangelical organics influence Sunday school and the Bible society, so they try to more activity over church out and inside and outside. So they want to continue and the community and the more local areas, so activity to combine. Key points. Pietism emphasizes the heartfelt devotion and the inspiration of the faith. The Puritan links education directly to confidence and discipleship. Enlightenment supports Christians to deepen faith, integrity, and educationally. Here. Pietism, the Christian movement centered around the individual whole line and living the righteous life. There are several Christian groups today they would refer to themselves as Pietism. The prevalence the modern day Christian church have been influenced by Pietism teaching as well. Here, our preacher in the 1400 said, John Hus lived in what is now known as the Christian Republic and was early leader over Pietism movement. Here, he was influenced by teaching of John Afric in that his work was focused in the reforming the Burmese church, whose teaching in the literary part and widely even influenced their father over the Reformation of Martin Luther. So they looked over the Calvin, the Luthers, and then Augustine they mentioned out, and then also Martin Luther. So they coming in. The moderns, Moravians, the Burmese, the Burton Church, the trace directly back to the power of this promised Pietism leader. It's Martin Luther. The Pietism movements played a key role in the formation of the Lutheran Church. The Philippine Jacques the Senner, who had been influenced by the Pietist teachers, were combined our leader for moral and then rigorous reformation in the German Lutheranism in the 1600s. During that time, many Lutherans stayed in the church and tried to make the reforms a reality. Others left studying there on the demonstration. Many of our demonstrations include them towns, the Britons, including the Church of Britons, which is still cited today. The Swedish Lutherans, who were influenced by the Spanish teaching, came to America and then formers Evangelical the Conference Church and then Evangelical Free Church of America. So two-part church, the classical and the freedom. In England, the British movement impacted John Wesley, who John Wesley, very famous pastor, they want to try the practice of our people and the medicine too. The United Methodist Church is a union between the Methodist Church and the Church of our Britons, showing that the impact of our Britons teaching learn deeper in this. Okay, here we mentioned the Pietism define, and what is the Pietism? The Pietism definition. The Puritans were widespread and then diverse group of people taking the stand of against Purity in the 16th, 17th, 18th centuries, the most in Europe. So Europe, the backgrounds, they have to try to the Puritans, they develop, and also they want to set up and then the stay, and also the demonstration, and also they want to spread the Europe area. So last time, his guy, the Turkey person that helped me. So you guys know that, right? Okay, here some Puritans later Anabaptists, but the major years, the connect the Church of England. The word Pietism was the first used in the 1560 and denote someone who stood for purity in relation to worship and the biblical doctrine. The English Puritans believed that the Reformation didn't go for enough in relation to overall church evolution the practice. As a result, they sought the great pressure of reforms through in internal action. Here. The most well-known historical Puritan figures include John the Furnace, the author of Pilgrim's Progress, the John Instop, and others cheated on the hairs, the Quantum Mothers, the John Prof, the author of Prof's book, the Latinus. He guys mentioned the Puritanism define here. While the Pietism is the focus of individual piety and the living his life constantly the focus of the spiritual mature in the Jesus Christ, the Puritanism is to help them change made during the Reformation didn't go to the fixed problem in the popular Christian church. So we studied the reformer, right? The reformer, they have so many people they want to try on the way, but the Martin Luther, they have the center of the church. They want to keep the traditional and the boundary, and then some people want to develop and then some the change it. Also, they want to try to do more the reformer. How are you? Early come. While vast different topics for Pietism and Puritanism have left their mark on the Christian faith, they were also influential movements that have shaped the modern church thinking, especially among the reformer demonstration. The many modern mainlines the Christian movements from future the Puritanism toward individual faith. Here. The Pietism is the most important development in the history of Christianity. Most Christians have never had all. It wasn't high on my latest either until a few years back when I began to learn about this consideration to the rise of our Christian Indian Western cultures. They studied the mention of the Western cultures. So they have the Christian have the free or classic, and then also they want to try the the spread Western. Before background is Europe, so they want a little more spread. Because of the generosity and then dualistic nature of Pietism, the successful takeover Scribism in the Western culture was inevitable. In the church and Christian in general focus on the other world, the concern, the culture and then governance could be left over the godless. So this was never the fitting intention, but it's inevitable given their technical observation. So they have to try to more modern style. They more consider and then they want to keep the traditional or they reform and the more modern style. The problem, too much go there, too much change, and they have the loss of the God. Is God coming or God is not, or is that or not? So they think about this. Everything is good, reform and then change the modern style, but we have to keep the traditional and then you have to keep the God. They mention out this is the here obsession and then intention. Also, the both Pietism and then Scribism needed the same things. Second, the society divide over Christian influence. This might seem the countless intuitive given the former, the passionately the legalist, while the latter is the completely and anti-religion. So anti-religion too, they come out. As you will see, the Pietism has been the dispersal, the Christian cultural influence in the West, the turning the Christianity into culturally implemented force. So they have anti-Christian too, anti-religion, because they mention out they don't have the God. They want to ignore the God. I want the on my way. So it's a church. We have a big church, but the small church they coming out. So they want the more set up the background, and then also they have the traditional, the root of Christian history they ignore, and then they want to accept. I want to on the way. So they worry about they have no God, and also anti-religion too. So many people they don't want to do some the religion. So they have these areas, so many the issue, and then also now the modern church they have there's some of the influence of some of the issue. So we mention about it here. Okay, we have 5 minutes break. So we starting and then the 60 today we have some mention about it, okay? Yeah, 5 minutes break.
vì mà bây giờ tụi em còn trẻ không? Thì nhìn bọn em chưa khác nhau mấy không? Đến 40 tuổi là bắt đầu chúng nó bắt đầu lão hóa nhiều á. Lúc đó nhìn em với những cái đứa phòng tuổi em mới khác nhiều. Bây giờ thì đã khác rồi. Nhưng mà khác là do tụi nó lấy chồng có con rồi mình phải khác rồi. Nhưng mà đến 40 tuổi lúc đó em cũng có chồng sinh con rồi. Lúc đấy mình sẽ khác. Mình sẽ
mấy rồi cũng nên mặc cho mình đi chứ không mà tự sinh đẻ.
Bây giờ đó thì em cũng sẽ đi tụi đi ống nghiệm. Cái tuổi này sao mà tự nhiên được nữa?
Nó vẫn cứ cái ti có địa, nó phải là ti có địa.
Em sinh em tự tính là sẽ là
Tụi nó nghĩ nó đau đau lại chỉ nó là nó cứ tự nhiên đi, nếu mà khó khăn
thì đương nhiên tự nhiên thế đó, mà tại vì tính sinh hai đứa sinh đôi.
trời
Thì mấy đứa
thì nó lợi thì nó lợi thời gian.
mấy đứa ca sĩ diễn viên bây giờ như thế nào?
Lợi
Đứa nào nó chả sinh đôi, có thích sinh nhiều sinh đôi một lần.
lợi thời gian.
Cho nên là cái thứ nhất là cái tuổi vợ là sinh một đứa, hai đứa là tôi sinh đôi thôi. Em về thì một đứa xong.
Mình thấy con mình nó không có quen gì là học
Nó sẽ đau khổ chuyện đó chịu.
không phải mình cũng thấy cũng buồn chứ nó không
Em chặt rồi. Với em á, em cứ dành hết cái gì tốt nhất mà em có thể làm cho tụi nó là xong. Còn đứa nào hư hỏng, đứa nào phải nó để. Thực ra là mình không biết dạy thì chúng nó mới người. Còn biết không biết là gì nữa. Chẳng qua là mọi người đều không biết dạy dỗ. Chị chỉ nhìn một cái đứa hư hỏng rồi chị xem cho bố mẹ mình thực sự như thế nào là chị biết được. Mình tử tế đàng hoàng thì đấy đâu là con cái hư hỏng. Nhà em đâu có đứa nào hư hỏng đâu. Bố mẹ em đẻ là 7 người con đúng rồi. Từ đầu nhỏ cho nó là thực ra cũng chẳng coi sóc gì hết. Nhưng mà nhà em không có ai hư hỏng hết.
nó nhìn cái cha mẹ không có kiểu mà chửi thề hay gì á.
Cho nên là thực chất ra ấy, nếu như chị sống đàng hoàng tử tế chắc chị chẳng bao giờ phải lo con cái hư hỏng. Còn nếu như nó hư hỏng là có vấn đề gì đấy thì xem lại ạ. Xem lại mình á, chứ đừng có chửi nó. Em nói thật với chị chắc chắn là phải có một cái gì đó từ mình mà nó trở nên như vậy. Chứ đừng có trách con nít toàn là đi dạy chửi mày lớn rồi mày hư hỏng cái này cái không. Thì xem lại đi mình dạy nó cái gì, xem là nó thành cái gì.
Em nhà em là Quảng Nam hay là Đà Nẵng gần Quảng Nam gì đó. Thấy nó ngập quá trời quá biết không. Nhà em có gần nó có điện thoại
Có cái là nó đi mà
nên định nó bị.
em quê Bắc của người Bắc mà.
Ở người Bắc thì thấy
Còn chỗ em không đi.
không bị. Thấy ngoài Bắc gì là cũng nằm trời.
Thế đó là ở miền Trung với lại là miền
Bắc
kiểu
Trung phần
Trung Bắc phần gần sát miền Trung á là bị. Còn ngoài em ở ngoài Bắc
Thanh Hóa gì nhà em có bị đó. Thì không biết cái Đà Nẵng với lại Quảng Ngãi có bị không?
là nó thường bị lớn á, vừa lúc nào cũng bị bão á.
Quảng Ngãi cũng bị á. Quảng Ngãi
Tại vì cái khu vực miền Trung cái năm nào nó cũng có bão hết á.
nó ngập lụt á.
Ngày xưa em ở Đà Nẵng 2 năm á. Trời đất ơi, mỗi lần mưa gió mà cũng nổ. Thề quá. Quần áo nó không khô cho mà mặc á.
Nó cứ ẩm á từ cái đấy. Rồi bão vùng ngập lụt người ta cúp điện đó. Đặt đồ cũng không ấy đâu. Không có đồ để mà thay. Cái chị trẻ lúc cái này nó sao nha.
Ướt át các kiểu thì có.
Rồi xả dù bình thường xả dù nó còn được còn gì nó cứ đều đều chứ.
ghê quá. Mình
Con bé cũng không xong.
mình tưởng tượng được cái cảnh cực lắm. Kinh quá. Tại vì cuộc sống mình nó bình thường mình quen lắm.
Và năm nào bị
Thì đấy, ngoài Bắc ngoài ở miền Nam miền Trung nó lúc nào cũng bị mà. Mình nói gì á.
Okay, everybody, the coffee time. So we continue. The page 48. We repeated the last week. So you guys not coming, so I more the summarize this one. I explained to the Luther and the Calvin, and then Augustine, also they in Martin Luther's, and the Augustine, the Germany is the theology, and then they the follower. So this Luther Calvin's, the educated in the medieval the scholastic system, I explained to you. And there's a theoretical work reflect them, Lutheranism and the Calvinism, the soon labor reforms would not stray from the intellectual the theology in the root until that is the reaction of our prestige in the Lutheran Christianism. So they have to try to more the keep the traditional the patterns and also inside the changing. So they have the smooth driver starting, and Europe the first to the Western, they move to the movement. The influence of our theism would go where beyond the Lutheranism in the centuries to come because it is focused on experience that is not theology or doctrines. Along each the usually cross demonstrational the boundary areas to eventually become the default expression of our Christianity in the modern world. Here, individualism is often the identity and the central trend of both prosperism and the virtualism, and such is also key to understanding Fitism. So we have two parts: the classical or the freedom, and then the modern. So three parts, and then they want to more the change, but it's not the combined. So they have some problem. So the Augustine over the Germans, they tell them Martin Luther they want to organizing, and they make a center of our heart. Here, I can vouch over this definition in my experience over Christianity. I was born again when I was a college. The focus on the spiritual and the meanings things of our mind, not so much this phrase in the ignorance, or thoughts that could be seen the semi-dangerous to our relationship with the teachers. So they mention that everything is okay. It's a reform or a little changing, but we have to keep the Jesus because the problem they have godliness problem. They want to ignore the gods. I want to make some the theology, and then they want the rule. So they have a big problem. So they Martin Luther they control. The experience and feelings, the future of our criticisms, the Canton is the kind of either take anything else. It was something that haunted John Wesley throughout his life. The morbid intervention, the Martin Luther, the taking his cure from the Augustine, have fully defined since the incubated in the sea, nothing for being to turn over the covered inward on the oneself, so much level the guiding. Here. Yeah, thankfully, the Christianity offers our best of both worlds, the heart and the mind, but the mind would trouble no more match for larger prophetism and the Western Christianity developed over the last several hundred years. Here, the founding, the Pharaoh's Pietism had an untwisting in the mysticism over the Middle Ages, and the Christian are looking for more experiential religious expression. The Christian seeking the experiential religious by removing themselves from the society becomes monk and alone. The various model of mistaken periods that discriminate is always protest, even the thoughts, the tradition, or the Catholic. Here, the founding of our Christianism was a long historical process, but it's generally agrees why lots of founders, John Ernest, was foundational to movement because they have so many years they process, but they would argue each part, so they want to combine. They after by the Martin Luther's, so they starting the movement. So this area, John Luther's was the foundation of the movement. So they more agree, generally agree, and then also they together they combine the theory each part. Here. Yeah. That we also see in Snapper kind of Celticism is an opposition to playing the dancing, the opera, and the theater. He stress on the modernization in dress, the food, and the drink. So they want to try to make activity or informally. So the classical and the freedom they compare. So they want the street, but the people, the public people, they want more freedom. So they want activities contrarily. So they try to do more activities outside. This becomes the future of the foundation over 19th and then especially 20th century, along with under revelation of our church liturgy, the sacrament and the quality. We see this modern street dance service in the many church which constable prize in the music and the ceremony. Here. On this bright trend of modernism, the secularism hugely light, and the Western world would undergo so slow movings, including the liberation. The Spanish was determined to fight against that. As governments became the more scholars, it was the church, though it is French and then native would expect the regulation for reform to create more rigorous society. Here. Finally, in its development, the Pietism would not be the limit to Lutheran Germany. The period is appearance in the Lutheran cycles. The Pietism without its name is found in the world of highly influential English reform, Lutheranism, the William Perkins. The considered the part of Puritanism, the considering almost exactly with the legend of Queen Elizabeth. The Perkins life influenced the whole generation of English churchmen and English spirit. Here. The Perkins show is that the fetus intellectual, the layers, the not the mutually exclusive. The problem, however, was that the teaching movements tend to see them is reject that, or if not them, is less in the tension. But too much intellectual effort in you is danger of your heart growing cold. But that is not the way the Lord likes to work. Its case is my all good, keep it of God. Here and here. At that's our last founder is reduced the cost Pietism, which becomes difficult. Even record the experience for Christians, as it was for me many years after Dutchman leave. The John Wesley and the inspiration, the Pietism, the man is most responsible for the bringing Pietism, the domination in the Christian is impressive. If a probabilistic the John Wesley, the period learning about the Wesley, I would never have connected Pietism in the development of our modern world, leaving the blame, the credit for the enlightenment. Here. Okay. So they so many times mentioned the Wesley. Here. The tree would fill its terrace in the Derby, in the middle of which he would encounter Pietism live out. The challenge is with petty. The specifically Wesley encountered a group of Moravians, also called United Burdens, from what is modern day Christian Republic. Here. They were united followers John Hurst, who processed the deformation to come and the words born at the stake and at the council of constraint. Here. The Church of England, however, did not lose display what is called at the time interrealism, and his became a personage none the greater. Here. This reaction was the opportunity to jump the start great awakenings in England. The something is that very already been happening in America, in the journalistic world. The striking bank is New England in the 1934 with a series of summons were justification debate on here. Even as Wesley became the interested preacher with intelligence world, you can see his mission wasn't only saving the soul, but keeping the Christian accountable in the live and grow its life of holiness. Yeah, so they have the godless, right? Holiness. So then the both same thing. So they more mention out that they very important the viewpoint here. Okay, here. This conception of our Christianity is about jumping towards the hope, and if you jump through and the light of hoops, you can feel good about your faith in your relationship to God. They are very important here, right? So, some people have the Christian world to have a Catholic. So, problem, you have to keep you some more God over sent to your heart. So, very important here. So, any kind the liberation, so you have the God inside here. He basically turns Christianity into a form of the legalism and given I am the sinner's guilt was constant company in my young Christian life. No matter how hard I will myself to overcome my sin, even though perfectionism wasn't overly the thought, I had in Bible and the at least a critical assimilation here. Yeah, they have some issue here. Nevertheless, and the unpunctualities that because of their teens theology and the focus experience, any Christian societal impact could not be sustained. It thus secularism eventually came to destroy the Christian in the West here. So we repeated the lecture 1 to 6. We studied history and also we have the movement and then the John Calvin and then Newton and then Augustine of Germanism and the Martin Luther they coming. Also Hippocrates in the BC the 12th century they have the mention of the medical practice and the Bible. So there's Nuga. So Nuga we have mentioned of the 3 weeks before. So Nuga they have a lot of the evidence over the natural medicine, also the Bible cure. So Hippocrates and then they mention about the public treatment too. The lecture today is lecture 6, the 19th century expansion. So BC 12th century to 16th century, the 17th century, they have the Martin Luther, right? So they move on to the reform and then challenging, and then they want the fixed system. So 19th century, it's a more expansion. They had more the smooth and the more comfortably. They have also the more good the system. Yeah, so you can see here contents, Robert Lakes and the Sunday school movements. So modern of Christian people, they want to only keep the inside the service every Sunday church service. But they start in the 9th century, that they start in the daily prayer. Some Sunday, usually Sunday the school, Sunday prayer service, but they Monday to the Friday, they have the early morning, they have the little 1 hour church service, they the movement here. Yeah, so they literacy, the Bible teaching for children. So they want a Sunday school. So after church service and the little child, the children they want to care, so they learn some learn from the Bible teachers. They had to know so more the God, so they teaching the children the Sunday school, and also missionary school, Asia, Africa, the Latin America, the education as evangelism. So missionary. So each church have the more medical missionary team they have. So eventually, sometime 1 year, 1 time or 2 times, they Latin America or Asia, Africa, they have the treatment, the natural party or some the period of the medical eye doctor or some the medical doctor, and then they want to try to missionary. So they trying to make a program, so teaching the church members, so they want to try to the missionary the school. Expansion of our seminars and the Bible training institutes. So now it's a modern education system from they start in the 19th century. The key point, the Sunday school revolutionized the race education, the mission, the links education, and then evaluation globally. The formal technical institution expanded the pastoral the preparation. In 1803, the President Thomas Jefferson, the first in the territory, the Louisiana from the French government for 50 million. The Louisiana, the purchase starts from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountain, and from the Canada to the 6.Lordland, and it's double size of the United States. 2 weeks ago, I visited Canada, so I want to visit Whistler, the village. They have the Indian village over there. So they, some of the missionary, I'm the education, so I'm the 3-day over there. So this is the Rocky Mountain and the Mississippi River from to here, the Canada to the 6.Lordland here. So they to spread the some movement here, the 19th century, 1803. And it's double size over the United States. To Jefferson, the westward expansion was the key to nation health. He believed that the republic depends on the independent. The pictures, the United States is a survivor, and that is independence in the future, and its hand is land ownership, especially the ownership of small farms. Those who labor in the earth, he worked, the chosen people of God, in order to provide enough land to sustain the ideal the population, which is Yemen. The United States may have to continue to expand. So now, so many Christians have to talked back to Eden. Yeah, back to Eden means, so with Genesis, with the Bible book, so Eden, so we have the man and the God, yeah, Adams and the Haya. As a Adam, so they have people, we have the no argue or any the problem, no word, anything. So they have the oriented the 2 part. They want to sum the piece of a garden. But now so too many some issue globally. So they want to try to back to Eden, and that means political and then also the health. So choice of food, anything, the spiritual problem. So they want to try to back to Eden. So this is this here. It's other chosen people of God. So they want to more back the garden here. The westward expansion of the United States is all about the defining the dams of our 19th century American history, but it is not just the story about Jefferson expanding empire over liberty. On the contrary, it is a history and virus. In the 6th decade after Virginia's first, the westward expansion very rarely destroyed the republic. So they mention about the very rarely destroyed the republic. By 1840s, nearly 7 billion Americans, the 40% of our nation population, live in the trade of Appalachian West. Following the trade bridge by Lewis and Clark, most of those people had left their home and the rest in the search of economic opportunity. So they want the more, try to more the spread the movement and then the church, and then also they had more economic opportunity. So they want to try because the public people they have is scrolling and then very hard time. So the church want more challenging. The public people they want to come to the collection of the church and then they give them more opportunity the economy. So some give the job and then some volunteer. So they want more the production over some value over life, the spam, and then also some economist money. Like Thomas Jefferson, the many of those pioneers associated westward migration, land ownership, and the farming needed freedom. Here, they starting the premium, the ownership, land ownership, and the farming with the freedom. In Europe, large number of our factories work the permanent with the dependent, the similarly the permanent working class. By contrast, in the United States, the western frontier offered the possibility of independence in the world, mobility for all. In 1843, look at here. In 1843, here, yeah, 1840. So it's 1843. All thousands period took the Oregon trade in part of a greater evolution. In 1845, the journalist named John Osberian the food named to the ideas that helped pull many pioneers toward the western frontier. The frontier means so we have to know anything the road, anything. So you had to make one way. So a little challenging, and then so the frontiers, so very schooling time. So the frontiers, Western frontiers, many the pioneers to the Western frontiers. Westward migration was an essential part of our liberation the project. He argues, and it was American. So this is Orange County to Gardena. We have the Santana, right? Gardena too. So many Asian people they come to immigration here a long time ago, 100 years ago. So Gardena means the gardener. Yeah, so they started too. So they Europe and then America, Latin America, and the Asia, the Africa, they do too. Some the immigration, and then they make more frontiers. So they want to change the ground here, and then they make some grow some the food something. The westward migration was an essential part of the propagation project. He argues, and his Americans manifest the density to carry the greater improvement over levity, the usage of our continent to overspray and to process the whole of the land which Province had given us. Serbian's work is several American freedoms depend on it. Here, meanwhile, the question of whether slavery would be allowed in the new Western states settles every conversation about the frontiers. In 1820s, the Missouri Conference and attempted to resolve this question. It had a limited missionary to union as a survival states in the Marines as free states. The preserving and the providing the balance in the Congress here. So the government Congress they want to control because of balance. Yeah, so many people they want on the way, so they too much argue. So no settles some issue. So the government Congress they want to control. The more importance it had the spirit that in the futures the slavery that would be prohibited not over certain boundary over Missouri in the rest of Virginia the process. However, the Missouri Compromise did not apply to new territories and were not part of our regional process, and so that issue of slavery continues to pass in the relation span. The Southern's economic growth incredibly depends on the king cottons, the system of forced labor, and the substrain. Meanwhile, more and more, the Lothland came to believe that the expansion of slavery impinged on their own liberty, but as citizens pro-slavery, the majority in Congress did not seem to represent their interest and the farmers. So the Congress did not see the represent their interest. So as the farmers wanted more give the chance of the opportunity of the value over economy sense, but this the frontier and then pioneer they want more developing these areas, but among the farmers their viewpoint is very different. So Congress they the Congress, so they want to build the navigation, and also they want to try to give the solution. They did not dictionary the object of slavery in itself. Yeah, they don't need to serve the slavery, but they designed the way its expansion was seen to be interfere in their own economic opportunity. So they wanted to combine the community. So they want the part, they want the responsible for the money and the economic opportunity. Westward expansion and the Mexican War. This period is a sequential conflict. Americans keep on the relating Western years after Missouri Compromise was adopted. Thousands of people crossed the Rocky to the Oregon's territory. So Oregon and then Washington D.C. and then Pacific the world, the sea, and the final, the route, the Oregon, and then the Olympia. I visited the Olympia, the Tacoma, and the Seattle. Also the Oregon's Portland. They have some the road. It is the Pacific in the road is the final over there. So they 1845 they cross people looking to Oregon, which migrants great visit in the thousand move into the Mexican territories of California, the new Mexico and the Texas. Yeah, so we have San Diego. San Diego, we have the borderline, so we can go the Tijuana in the Mexico, and then the Texas too, they have the land of the borderline over there. So they cross, and also they had the spread movement here. In 1837, American settlers in Texas joined their Tijano neighbors, the Texas on the Spanish Oregon, and won independence from the Mexico. They petitioned to join the United States as a slave state. This promised to offset the careful balance that the Missouri Compromise had achieved, and the annexation of Texas and other Mexican territories did not become the political priority until interested specialist, pastoralist Cotton's planner James Key Polk was elected the presidency in 1844. So Cotton planter James Key, they elected the presidency. So because we have the good, right? So we little leaders. So they won the election the first time, 1844, by the election to presidency. So the name is the Cotton planners and the James K. Polk. So usually the Paraguay and then Latin America, they have the cotton. The business is very popular. So so many the Korean people, they work over there too. So they started in 1844. They have the cotton business over there, very popular. Also, they have some people they make the opportunity, make some the money, also the economy, the group. Thanks to the benefiting the Polk and his allies, Texas joined the Union and the slave in the state of February 1846 in June. After negotiation is Great Britain, Oregon joined as a free state. So Oregon today joined as a free state. That same month, the Polk declared war against Mexico, claiming the fact that the Mexican army had invaded our territories, shared American for on American soil. So 1846, they have a lot of the land over the Mexico, but after 19th century, after they were the Americans, so they have a lot of the land, this cafe, then the cafe. So they join over the America. So now so there is small area, so Mexico, but now the Latin America, Texas areas are very popular, have the revolution of the Mexican Latin America too. The Mexican Americans were provided the electricity on populace, in part because many Northerners objected to what they saw war expanded the democracy. In 1846, Peninsula, the Congressman David Wilmot achieved the previous of the war appropriation the bill declaring that slavery should not be permitted in any part of Mexican territory that the United States might acquire. So afterwards, had owe the money, the United States. So the Mexico, the governments, they had to give the land over to America. So they don't have no money, so they want more the areas, so more extending the United States. Wilmot measures paid the pass, but it's made explicit once again the sectional conflict that haunted this process of westward expansion. In 1848, the Treaty of Granville Higuerots and the Mexican War, and then add more than 1 million square mile and larger than Louisiana first to the United States. So big land square. So the United States, they have more get the lands. The acquisition of these lands reopened the question that majority conference had originally settled what would be states of slavery in the new American territories. After 2 years, including the political debate over issue, the Kentucky Senate had placed purpose on the conference. So they want more settlers, and then also the issue in the afterward that they have more settlements. It had a power part. First, California would be inter-union and the free state. The second, the state over slavery in the rest of Mexican territory would be decided by people who live there. Third, the slave trade but not the slavery, would be abolished in the Washington D.C. and the port. New productive slave act would be enabled to certain year, decline to non-race, the slave who had escaped Lothland state, where slavery is not allowed. So this is California, so many people, the Mexican people over there here, that's why, because you have, you know the history here. How comes they come here, they cross here, usually the Texas port, and then is the San Diego over there, they have the port. So these areas, afterwards, so many people, they cross here the United States, the California and the Washington D.C. and the Georgia and then the Kentucky. The bleeding to Kansas, another word, but the large question remained unanswered. In 1854, Illinois Senator Stephen Douglas proposed that the new states, Kansas and Nebraska, he established in the Louisiana the first and the Estrabon, Loya, and then Missouri, Iowa in the Missouri. So before the after war, they have more the join and they make the explanation near the states. So we have the 54 the states right in America, right? So the Trump they mentioned what they Canada is one more the other states. So they want everybody want the more big nation and want the landscape. Russia too, Ukraine the war, right? They want a more expanded landscape. So this is naturally. So they have cross, but either the Christian movement is the same here. So here, however, since those certain legislators would approve the plans would give more power to free soil, nonetheless, Douglas Kent in the middle ground that he called the popular subsidy, letting the theater over electricity decide for themselves whether their states would be self-free. Here. Yeah, free soil. Free soil settlers eternally the liberal governments and some Kansas split into civil war. Yeah, civil war here. Hundreds of people died in the fighting that ensured known as the Bleeding Kansas. The Kansas was the Bleeding Kansas here. Declared later, the civil war in the Kansas over expansion over slavery was followed by national civil war over the same issue. As Thomas Jefferson had predicted, it was the question over slavery in the West, the place that seemed to be rebellion over American freedom, than provided in the canon over the Union. So they have some issue. It's California also this week we see the in 1846 the Peninsula Confederation Navy in which the previous war, and here Cabin War, the Blade War, and also the Washington D.C. and Oregon and the Kansas and the Iowa, Virginia, and then here Nebraska and Missouri, they the more states join the freedom, and also they have to either the Christian the movement we want together. So here and then mention about the free soil, and they will mention the free soil to here also. Free soil settlers establish the legal government, so small group and then make the government. So that's why the South Korea and the present, right? Everybody, the China, the Vietnam, the Thailand, everybody have some. But in case the countries have the freedom over the cover all areas, the nation. But the United States, the terms, the freedom, but have each state over them more, the governors, so they the controlling. So there are different. So they have the joint PT for the states over some the United States, and then cross the borderline, the Mexican, Latin American here, and also more extending the issue, the Alaska too, right? Before Alaska is a Russia land, right? But now so American land. So Russia, America, Alaska, not too much, right? Not distance. So maybe 5 minutes, maybe it's Russia and then America here. So this is the areas and landscape, and they work together, and also they more developing in the escape, and also they settling the frontier they cross, and then Europe to here, America here, to America to Latin America, and then Asia. So they spread the Christian movement here. Okay, so today's done here. It's last week. We are 20th century taking the CPT content. Okay, yeah, thanks so much. And then next week, I give the homework, some the essay, the 2 pages. So you have to submit the front desk. So maybe you had the evidence. Maybe sometime the government they watch you the class something. So very easy. Okay. So I give some the 4 question, the assignment. You send the front anytime. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Topic is eventually it's not this one. It's you study the regulation, right? Christian, but your regulation, what's your lifespan, the importance, something. Yeah, it's your personal issue. Yeah.
Just anything?
Yeah, anything. I give the thema. I give the copy for you. Okay, last week. So before the class, people. We have 6 weeks, right? The before we the evidence of whether the students come or not. The very important here, okay? Yeah, don't stress, okay? Yeah.
Wait, so next week you will give out?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and then you can submit.
The week after that you turn in the...
Yes, yeah, okay? Yeah, yeah, thank you. No delays, but no exam. So, no exam, I will just assignment one time, okay? Yeah. Okay, good? Don't stress, okay?